What's going on, CDL fans, and welcome back to the updated power rankings after week 2 of Major 1 qualifiers. This week was another banger week. We saw OPTIC go undefeated with HAVOK in their starting lineup. We saw FAZE get their first win. The Ravens, the Ultra, looking good. It's a bunch of different teams, and it looks like it's going to be super competitive this year. So let's hop straight into these power rankings and talk about where I have the teams ranked after this week. Coming in at number 12, to no surprise, is the Vegas Falcons. Not even going to really go into these guys too much. They clearly have what it takes to take maps off of teams. We saw them win their first respawn, a Control versus Atlanta FaZe. But at the end of the day, they still have not won. They've only won 2 maps all year, so they're at number 12. Then at number 11, down 1 spot, I do have the Los Angeles Gorilla Mates. LAG is definitely struggling. They lost 3-1 to the LA Thieves, and they lost 3-2 to OPTIC Texas, nearly pulling off the reverse sweep versus OPTIC. And overall, this team is just not finding consistency from their AR players. Kismet and Lins have been good, but Priest and Skies have not been able to get it done. You can see here, they are only really good at Control. They're 3-1, but they're 2-6 in Hardpoint and 1-5 in SND. So this is the team heading into the break, 0-4, really looking to pick it up post-break. Next up, at number 10, I do have down 1 spot, the Miami Heretics. Miami is 1-3, their only win coming in the first match of the year versus Falcons, but they did go winless this weekend, losing in Game 5s to both the Breach and the Toronto Ultra. And Miami is a team that's really been weird this year because really bad in search and destroy. They're actually competent and have a above even record in hardpoint, and they're undefeated in Control. But they are 1-6 in search and destroy and have just shown no signs of knowing how to play SND. I mean, this past weekend, Miami lost 6-2, 6-2 to Boston, so that's 4 wins. And then they lost 6-1, 6-1 to Toronto. They won a total of 6 rounds in SND across 4 maps this past weekend. So Miami, I definitely have dropping in the rankings. Then we move on to number 9, down 1 spot. It is the Vancouver Surge. The Surge, another team to go winless this weekend, losing 3-1 to OPTIC and losing 3-2 to the Boston Breach. It looks like Boston is beating all of these teams, by the way, if you start to notice that. But the Surge are in a very interesting spot because this is a team that I really do feel like can be a sleeper, right? Of course, getting a 3-2 victory versus Miami Heretics last week, or 2 weeks ago, I guess, at this point. But they're just kind of average, like kind of mid at every single game mode, as you can see by their records: 3-5 in Hardpoint, 3-4 in SND, 2-2 in Control. This is just a team that they're all negative right now, a red carpet. Not really seeing anyone slay out or necessarily get fried, right? Slayer rating-wise, they're all sitting within 3 of each other. Hixie has definitely been worst, I would say, in the respawn so far. 0-4 has been surprisingly bad in search and destroy. But this is a team that I really do think can be a sleeper going forward, but they're just not getting it done in any single mode, so they got to work on it all over this break. Next up, we move to number 8, down 2 spots. It is Atlanta FaZe into the 8th spot. FaZe did get their first win of the year versus the Vegas Falcons this past weekend, 3-1. But they were also swept by the Carolina Royal Ravens, and this was a dominant sweep if you did not see this. 100-point club map won 6-3, and then they got reverse swept in the map 3. They went up 2-0, looked like we were going map 4, and then the Ravens came back and won 3 straight. FaZe are in a weird spot. This is a start for a FaZe team we have never seen before. Stellium negative after 4 matches. Feels like we're living in an alternate universe. Abizi sitting at even, Simp sitting just positive after this weekend. And they are just really bad at the game modes that have made them so good year in, year out. SND, they finally got their first win versus Falcons. And in Control, they are 1-3. These 2 modes being ones that I feel like they've been able to rely on heavy in previous years. And their hardpoint sitting at just above even at a 4-3 record. FaZe, even though they did get a win, they still are dropping in the rankings because their win came against the worst team in the league. And they also got swept by the Royal Ravens. I will say, saving grace here for FaZe, and part of the reason that maybe they don't fall as far is, 1, other teams also went winless this weekend, so FaZe didn't fall farther than them. And 2, FaZe's 3 losses are against the top 3 teams in the CDL standings, as you can see here, Ravens, Thieves, and Ultra. So that is a saving grace, but this is definitely a very unexpected bad start for FaZe. Now to finish off our right side of the board here at number 7, I do have Cloud9 New York up 4 spots. Same thing as last week. C9 is a tough team to rank. They did get their first win versus the Rocker, but then they got reverse swept by the Carolina Royal Ravens. They went up 2-0, and then it wasn't particularly close in many of the maps after that. The Ravens finally getting their guns hot and taking over. I did have C9 going up 4 spots. The biggest reason for this is because other teams just fell lower than them. Like, they did get a win. They didn't necessarily look great. I mean, you could see their player stats, especially their ARs are getting fried, but because of the fact that they at least got a win and other teams started to fall, that is kind of why they jumped up 4 spots. And plus, their first weekend, we know they had server issues, so objectively, if we take out the first weekend, they're sitting at a 1-1 record right now, you know, make-believe 1-1 record for the sake of this. So I do have them up. Overall, they are bad at control. They have not won one yet. They are okay at S&D, and they're okay at hardpoint. So this team will continue to see how they play out, but Sib and Attach have just been bad, especially Sib has been really, really bad. So good need to see the AR step it up here, but either way, Cloud9 is jumping up in the rankings. Next up, the top 6. At number 6, I do have the Minnesota Rokkr. They are down 2 spots, but keeping themselves in the T6. Rokkr are, funnily enough, the only team to be 2-2 after the first 2 weeks. Every other team either has 1 win, no wins, 3 wins, or 4 wins. They're the only ones to be at a perfect even record, which is pretty interesting. And they are a hard team to judge because looking at their matches, they went undefeated week 1. They went winless week 2. Their series versus LA Thieves yesterday on Sunday, at the time of recording, this is Monday when it's getting posted and recorded. It was actually close, man. I mean, they nearly won the red card hardpoint. They dominated the SND. The control, they got reverse swept in. It's not showing it for some reason, but they did go up 2-0 in the control, and LAT was able to bring that back. And then map 4, they were up by a massive lead, as you can see here, 129-44, and ended up throwing away that lead, putting up nearly no points through like 6 hills here, which is pretty insane. This Rokkr team is very, very hard to judge because overall, they are still relatively getting outslayed. Nero finally with a positive KD, the first one of his teammates to do this. But looking at them, their hardpoint just needs some work. They're good at SND and they're competent in control. A 2-6 hardpoint record is just not going to win you series here if you are the Minnesota Rokkr. So they are falling in the rankings, but still sitting in the top 6. It's honestly not bad for this potential sleeper. Coming in at number 5, I do have the Boston Breach up 2 spots. Boston is 3-1 right now. Every single game going to game 5. The only one they lost was in the last week for Minnesota Rokkr, or in the first week for Minnesota Rokkr. This Boston team honestly has been a very, very pleasant surprise. The teamwork this team shows, the slaying they're showing, I mean, every single one of them getting kills when they need to. They've honestly been really good and fun to watch, which I didn't think would be something I'd say for the Boston Breach. Control is definitely the mode they need to work on the most because they're 5-3 in both hardpoint and SND. Only 1 control win as of now. So if they do figure that out over this winter break, I really do think Boston could be a team that breaks into the T5, even T4, potentially at Major 1. Then at number 4, just ahead of Boston, I do have OPTIC Texas up 1 spot. I will say before I even talk about OPTIC, you could switch Boston and OPTIC. Boston did beat OPTIC in week number 1. The only reason I have OPTIC higher is because they have a new roster and they went undefeated this weekend with HAVOK as their new roster. But like I said, I think you could switch these two and that's totally fine. Obviously, OPTIC goes undefeated this weekend with their new team, bringing in HAVOK, 3-1 to Surge, 3-2 versus LAG. LAG tried to pull off the reverse sweep, just could not get it done. And this OPTIC team is sitting in an interesting spot because HAVOK had some big maps. He was good in the first series, bad in the second series, other than in that Search and Destroy where he iced up in game number 5. And they have a winning record in every single game mode. Their SND with HAVOK is actually way better, but their respawn has gotten worse now with HAVOK coming in for Pred. OPTIC, though, is a team that I feel like is still going to be competing for top spots week in, week out. But right now, I have them sitting at number 4. Now we get into our top 3 teams. And what I do want to say before I even reveal these is you could do these in any order, man. Like, genuinely, if you have Ravens 1, Ultra 1, Thieves 1, I wouldn't argue with you. I actually think this order can be completely mix and matched however you want. But I actually have it in the exact same order as last week. I didn't drop anybody because all 3 of these teams are undefeated at this point. They have not lost, so it'd feel weird, I feel like, to drop somebody. But like I said, Ravens have looked incredible. Ultra have looked great. Thieves have looked like they have flaws, but they still continue to stay composed and get wins. So if you want to put Ravens 1, Ultra 1 over Thieves, things like that, that's totally fine with me. All 3 of these teams are undefeated. First up to talk about Ravens, as you can see, undefeated record, reverse sweep versus C9, sweep versus Atlanta FaZe, everybody doing their job. Vivid, honestly, I mean, it looks like he's not been as good, especially in Search and Destroy, sitting at a 0.6 KD, but he's really just enabling his teammates to make plays, which is something that's good. He's also sitting in the hill quite a bit. His hard point, as you can see, I mean, 82 OBJ per 10 second or per 10 minutes, which is not bad. They are 6-1 in hardpoint, 3-2 in SND, and 3-1 in control. This is a team that also I feel like is going to get better at SND as the year goes on. I mean, Slasher and Tej are some of the best SND players of all time, potentially. And Gwyn and Vivid, I mean, Vivid's been bad at search, but Gwyn especially is definitely not a bad SND player. This team is really, really good at respawn. Protocol hardpoint, just auto veto it versus them because they are insane at protocol HP. Honestly, Slasher looks like he's in prime form. Gwyn looks like MVP caliber this season. This is definitely a team to watch going forward. Next up, to talk about the Toronto Ultra. They are also undefeated. A couple game 5s in here, but everyone's doing their job. Insight sitting at just a negative KD, but same thing I kind of said for Vivid. He just enables his teammate. He sits in the hard point. He's a good leader for them in game. They are 6-0 in search and destroy. As you're going to see as we go through this, these top teams have one mode where they are pretty elite at it. And SND is that mode for the Toronto Ultra. I mean, just looking at their numbers. I mean, look at these numbers, man. No one's lower than a 1.22. Everyone's getting kills. They're getting a lot of first bloods across the board. They're also planting the bomb a lot. I mean, look at the amount of plants Joe DeCeves has, but also his teammates with a few in there as well. This Ultra team, man, I think is the real deal. I think they're going to be a top 4 caliber team all year long. And then lastly, to talk about the LA Thieves, of course, still 4-0 as all these teams are. All the players on the team kind of doing their thing overall, getting kills, staying alive when they need to. Looking at their modes, it's hardpoint. Same thing with Ravens that the Thieves are elite at. Only one loss. That loss came to FaZe in Game 4 on Rewind. I will say Rewind seems to be their favorite map, and it looks like it's coming out of the map pool for Hacienda, which is not good for the Thieves, but they are still undefeated at every single other one, so hopefully they'll figure it all out. SND definitely needs some work. Control definitely needs some work, but overall, the Thieves definitely have flaws. I'm not afraid to admit that as a Thieves fan. They are still getting it done and staying composed when other teams make comebacks, and at the end of the day, you cannot knock a 4-0 record. But those are the power rankings post week 2 as we head into the winter break. Let me know what you think. Like I said, don't really overthink this top 5. 1 through 3 could be in any order, and 4 through 5 could be switched in my opinion. Like I said, I think these are power rankings that are going to update every single week after matches, so a lot of things are going to change. FaZe fans, don't worry. I think you guys will bounce back and get back towards the top here, but let me know what you think. Make sure to sub to the channel for more CDL content. We are 100 subs away, I believe, from 7,000. We'll see if we can hit it before 2025. I appreciate the support and the love on all the videos and streams recently, and hopefully I'll see you all in the next one.